Adult school crossing guards play an important role in helping children cross streets safely at key locations on their ways to school. In 1992, the Florida legislature adopted the Ramon Turnquest School Crossing Guard Act. This law, now incorporated in Section 316.75 of Florida statute, requires most local government entities that administer school crossing guard programs to train their guards according to the guidelines adopted by the Florida Department of Transportation. The guidelines contain basic techniques used in conducting school crossings, which we will now review.
Here are a few basic techniques you will use to conduct school crossings. At an intersection, traffic can approach a crosswalk from various directions. To gauge whether approaching traffic will have time to see you in the crosswalk and yield, use the following traffic search procedure for crossing a street, and coach students to follow the same procedure. At the curb or edge of the road, stand and face the roadway. Search to the left and to the right for traffic approaching from either direction. If you are at an intersection, search forward, left, right, and back to the left, and then over your shoulders if necessary, for any traffic approaching that might cross your path. If the gap seems adequate, before proceeding, make a final search to the left. As you cross the street, continue to scan the approaches for moving vehicles. As a crossing guard, you must know the appropriate signals to use to communicate with drivers. These signals are to alert drivers of their duty to stop for crosswalk users and are never for purposes of directing traffic.
According to the MUTCD and the Florida School Crossing Guard Training Guidelines, adult crossing guards shall not direct traffic in the usual law enforcement regulatory senses. They shall stand in the roadway to indicate that pedestrians are about to use or are using the crosswalk, and that all vehicular traffic must stop.
While in the roadway, never make any hand or head movement that might be interpreted by a driver as a signal to proceed. When you have taken position and are ready to cross the students, verbally and without gestures, instruct them to make their traffic searches and begin to cross.
The stop paddle is one of your most important tools. When held and used properly, it visually alerts drivers of your presence.
A stop paddle, the R1-1, is an official traffic control device. Florida statute section 316.074 states, the driver of any vehicle shall obey the instructions of any official traffic control device applicable thereto, placed in accordance with the provisions of this chapter, unless otherwise directed by a police officer, subject to the exceptions granted the driver of any authorized emergency vehicle in this chapter.
When using the stop paddle to alert traffic on a two-way street, raise the stop paddle with the arm that will be closest to the far or opposite side of the street when you take position for crossing students. At an intersection, use the arm that is farthest from the intersection when you are at the curb facing the crosswalk. Next, hold the stop paddle shoulder high so one face is displayed to traffic approaching the crosswalk on the near side of the street, and the other face is displayed to traffic approaching the crosswalk on the far side of the street. The two faces of the stop paddle must remain continuously visible to traffic approaches on the respective sides. Your body must never block the view of either face of the stop paddle. The stop paddle precedes you into the crosswalk. Look directly at near-side traffic momentarily, turning your head as necessary. As you approach the middle of the street, continue to hold the stop paddle in this manner and look directly at far side traffic, turning your head as necessary. The stop paddle should be kept raised while you are in the roadway. Never switch the stop paddle from one hand to the other or wave it about while in the roadway.
If a driver disregards the stop paddle, look directly at the driver and blow one long blast on the whistle.
To make the hand signal for traffic to stop, look directly at the nearest driver to be alerted and point at the driver with an extended arm and 2 fingers or a flat hand. Continue to watch the driver and hold your arm extended parallel to the ground. If the driver disregards the hand signal, blow 1 long blast on the whistle to warn him or her.
Your whistle is used as a warning device only. Place the whistle in your mouth when stepping into the crosswalk. Blow 1 long blast on your whistle as you step off the curb. If a driver fails to stop in response to the hand signal or the display of a stop paddle, the response is to again blow 1 long blast on the whistle to give an audible warning to the driver. Look directly at the driver and continue to display the stop paddle or hand signal towards the driver with an extended arm.
The MUTCD cautions that excessive use of the whistle can result in reduced effectiveness.
Now that we have explained basic crossing techniques and signaling, let's move on to the 8-step procedure for conducting school crossings. The first step is curbside assembly. Stand on the curb or behind the edge of the roadway on the side of the street where students approach. If a standback line is marked or taped on the sidewalk, keep students behind it. If no standback line is present, keep students at least 3 feet behind the curb. Instruct the students so they will understand what they need to do to cross safely.
Remember, a crossing guard shall actively reinforce safe street crossing practices, coaching students to search for traffic before crossing. Instruct them to look left, right, left for any approaching vehicle, and when at a corner, to look over their shoulder for possible turning traffic. Students are to stand away from the curb until you verbally tell them to search for traffic. Cross if clear and keep searching. Look to see if there are any students running to catch up to the group, and also ask students on bicycles, skateboards, or scooters to dismount. Students are to walk, not run, while crossing the street.
According to Florida Statute 316.2065, a bicycle rider or passenger who is under 16 years of age must wear a bicycle helmet that is properly fitted and is fastened securely upon the passenger's head by a strap that meets the federal safety standard for bicycle helmets.
The second step is to select an opportune time to step into the crosswalk. Search traffic on the near side approach, including any that might turn into the approach, waiting for the appropriate time for a gap in traffic. For most conditions, pick a gap of at least 150 feet. Search both approaches before entering the crosswalk. Remind students to wait for your verbal direction before starting to cross and to not walk into the street until you have given the verbal direction to do so. The third step is to enter the crosswalk, stopping near side traffic. Enter the crosswalk with whistle in mouth with the stop paddle raised. The stop paddle proceeds or leads you to the middle of the roadway. Blow 1 long blast on the whistle to give an audible signal that you are stepping off the curb. The fourth step is to stop far side traffic. As you approach the middle of the roadway, ensure that your stop paddle is held at shoulder height and visible to far side traffic, including any turning traffic. The fifth step is to take position. Face the intersection with your back to the crosswalk, and while standing on or just outside the crosswalk, continue to display the stop paddle to both approaches. Make a final check that traffic has stopped. The sixth step is to initiate the crossing. Turn your head toward the waiting students, and after making eye contact, tell them to search for traffic and cross when clear. If a student steps into the crosswalk without searching for traffic, remind him or her to look left, right, left again, and over their shoulder for possible turning traffic.
Remember, Use words with the students. Do not use hand signals because drivers may interpret your hand signals as an indication for them to move.
The seventh step is to maintain your position. As students cross behind you, do not allow any drivers to cross the crosswalk. Remain in the intersection until all students have safely crossed to the opposite curb.
Florida law states the driver of a vehicle shall stop and remain stopped to a pedestrian crossing the roadway within a crosswalk.
The eighth and final step is to return to the starting curb or roadway edge. Remain alert for traffic and continue to display the stop paddle until you have left the roadway. For your safety, make sure the stop paddle is visible to all traffic.
Remember, the crossing guard should be the first one in the crosswalk and the last one out. Now we will explain the procedure differences for other types of crosswalks.
The procedure for crossing an unsignalized mid-block crosswalk is similar to that of an unsignalized intersection, except for change to step 5. Take position in the middle of the street, just outside the crosswalk on the side closest to the approach with the greater apparent risk of traffic conflict. Face that approach and continue to display the stop paddle to both approaches. Make a final check that traffic on both approaches has stopped.
When determining which way to face, consider which lane has more traffic volume or higher typical speeds. You can always check with your supervisor to find the right place to stand at your crossing.
The procedure for crossing a signalized intersection crosswalk is similar to that of an unsignalized intersection. The exception here is that step 2, select an opportune time, is replaced with wait for walk indication. As students assemble, press the pedestrian push button, if needed, to actuate a phase for pedestrian crossing. Remind students to wait for your verbal signal before starting to cross. When a fresh walking person signal or walk signal is displayed, when the appropriate green is illuminated, make a final search for traffic before entering the crosswalk.
If the signals change before the last students have reached the opposite curb, those students who have started their crossing should continue by walking, not running, across the street. Do not allow the students to start crossing at this time. All vehicles must remain stopped until the pedestrians have finished their crossing, even if the signal has changed.
At an unsignalized or signalized crosswalk that crosses 4 or more lanes, 2 guards are assigned so that each can handle one side of the highway. The guard for the side on which students approach is in charge of initiating the crossing. Thus, the responsibility of the lead guard will switch from one side in the morning to the other side in the afternoon. The lead guard enters the highway first, but proceeds only to the middle of the traffic lanes on his or her side, and stops traffic only on that side. The guard on the opposite side waits for the lead guard before entering the roadway and stops traffic on his or her own side. Each guard stands at the edge of the roadway on the side closest to the approaching traffic and faces that approach. The lead guard makes a final visual check and gives verbal instruction to students to make their searches for traffic and to cross when clear. Students cross in the crosswalk between the 2 guards.
A roundabout is a one-way circular intersection without traffic signal equipment in which traffic flows around a center island that operates with yield control at the entry points and gives priority to vehicles within the roundabout. Roundabouts move traffic safely and efficiently through an intersection.
For a crossing on a leg of a roundabout, the procedure for an unsignalized mid-block crosswalk can be used. Crosswalks at a roundabout are usually located a short distance from the circulatory roadway. So if one or more vehicles stop at the entrance to wait for an opening to enter the roundabout, pedestrians can cross behind them. A splitter island provides a median refuge so crossing pedestrian can concentrate on one direction of traffic at a time. So let's recap and review the 8-step procedure for conducting school crossings. Whatever type of crossing you work, the steps are very similar. 1. Give curbside assembly instructions. 2. Select an opportune time to cross. 3. Enter the crosswalk, stopping near side traffic. 4. Stop far side traffic. 5. Take position. 6. Initiate the crossing. 7. Maintain your position. 8. Return to the starting curb or roadway edge.
Local agencies may adjust crossing procedures to fit unique roadway configurations or conditions, as long as they are consistent with guideline principles and the state of Florida law. Remember, the safety of students is the primary concern. Follow the guidance given in your agency training to improve the safety of the children and yourself.
Florida school crossing guards are professionals looked up to by students. They are vital members of the school community and are a key element in keeping our school crossings safe for Florida's children.
Thank you, Florida School Crossing Guards!